Chapter 9, Lesson 5 on scientific notation. All right, so first going to talk about standard form. Standard form is just numbers that do not contain exponents. All right, so when we write a number, just plain, normal, nothing weird, standard form. Okay, scientific notation is a number that is expressed as a product of a factor and a power of 10. So an example of scientific notation is 3.92 times 10 to the 5th. This will always be a power of 10. It can be a positive or negative exponent, and this number here has to be, the number has to be greater than or equal to 1. The number also has to be less than 10. It cannot equal 10, so it has to be 1 point something or 2 point something or 3 point something. It cannot be 0 point something, and it cannot be 10 or 10 point something or anything larger. Right? Examples of scientific notation if we have to write in standard form. Okay, so I'm going to say when we multiply by 10, I'm really just moving my decimal point. So I start with a 2. When I multiply it by 10, it adds another 0, by 10 again, by 10 again. So I multiplied 3 times by 10, and my answer in standard form is 2,000. Okay, if it's a negative exponent, that means that my decimal point is going to be moving to the left, because basically I'm dividing by 10. So I have 3.25. I'm going to move the decimal 1, 2, 3, 4 places, and this is where it's going to be now. I fill in these zeros, and my answer in standard form is 0.000325. All right, if I have to write a number in scientific notation, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, if it's a really big number, I'm going to start over at the right side, and I'm going to say, how many zeros are there? All right, well, those are all zeros. So this part over here that's left is going to be my number part. So I can't write it as 402. I can't write it as 40.2. The only way that I can write it is 4.02. And then I'm going to say, okay, so then it's times a power of 10. Well, this is where my decimal started at, and this is where I need it to finish at. So I moved it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 places. And since this is a really big number, it's going to have a positive exponent. So 4.02 times 10 to the 9th. Okay, now if it's a really small number, 0.000 something, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to start at this end. I'm going to say 0.00000. And this is how many zeros I have. And then I look at what's left over, and I'm going to write that as the factor part. So again, I can't write 64. I can't write 0.64. I have to write 6.4. It's going to be a power of 10. Since it's a really small number, I know it's going to be a negative exponent. Here's where my decimal starts, and then it finishes between the 6 and the 4, because down here I have written 6.4. So my decimal finishes between the 6 and the 4. So I'm going to count the places it moved. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 6.4 times 10 to the negative 8th. All right, now let's talk about if we want to order numbers in scientific notation. So if I'm going to put them in order, let's say from least to greatest, the first thing that I'm always going to do is I'm going to look at the exponents. All right, I'm not going to worry about what that factor is, what the number part is. I'm just going to look at the exponents, and I'm going to order those from smallest to greatest, if that's what I'm doing, or greatest to smallest. Now, if I have the same exponents, then within that same exponent, I order the factors. And so I look at the factor portion of scientific notation. Okay, let's look at an example. So if I'm going to order these 4 numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check their exponents. I'm not even going to worry about that number part. And I say, okay, 3 of them have 8s and 1 of them has a 7. We're trying to order from least to greatest. So I automatically know that this one is going to be the smallest one. So I'm going to put that down, 6.64 times 10 to the 7th. So that's done. Now I'm going to say, okay, well, which one would be the next smallest? Well, their exponents are all equal. Now I'm going to start looking at their number part. So the one that has the number that's the smallest is 2.08 times 10 to the 8th. The one that has the next smallest number is 2.45 times 10 to the 8th. And then the one that has the biggest number is 4.38 times 10 to the 8th. And now they're in order from smallest to biggest.